Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. The election is just a scant 43 days away. 64 days since Kamala's been the presumptive nominee. No formal news conference. So you know what? I'm just going to keep an eye on both of those timelines. And one of the frustrating parts about her not doing news conferences and answering questions about her platform is we don't know a whole lot about her platform at this point. So we can just kind of guess by what she's been a part of in the Biden administration. But to break it down a little further, EJ Antoni is back on from the Heritage Foundation. Welcome back, EJ. And I don't know if you've noticed, but she's not known, she's not renowned for giving direct answers to questions. There was the town hall she did with Oprah last week where a nice looking couple said, what are you going to do to help with rising prices? And you got just an air bidet answer, EJ.
That's a great phrase. I'm going to have to steal that because it's absolutely right. That's exactly what we got. We got one of the worst word salads of this campaign, and that says a lot. And I think the reason for that is simply because she doesn't actually have a plan. She doesn't have any answers to these questions. And frankly, we saw that during the debate, the one presidential debate we've had, where even at that point where she had essentially pre-rehearsed lines that she was able to deliver, they still didn't actually have any substance. They sounded better than the incoherent rambling, but they still lacked substance. And again, the reason for that is because there is no plan and she has no answers.
See, I'm about 70% in agreement with you, but 30% of me still thinks that she has a plan. She knows it's just not politically smart to tell you what it is. If she is a Marxist or even halfway down the spectrum to what her dad and mom both were, that's not something that would help you win elections. So I think maybe she's either doesn't have a plan or she's trying to hide it.
Well, how about this? I'll split the difference with you and say that her handlers have a plan, and you're absolutely right. It is Marxist. It is far left. It is a communist hellhole, to be perfectly blunt with you. It is the government controlling prices, whether it's prices at the grocery store or your rent, whatever the case may be. And at first, that may sound nice. These things always sound attractive to start with because, yes, I would like to pay less for everything I buy. But all of those policies create shortages. They create lower quality products and services for the consumer, and that's why they have failed literally anywhere and everywhere they have been tried, including, frankly, here at home. We had 3 different presidential administrations in the 1970s, both Republican and Democrat, who tried wage and price controls. And again, every time it failed and failed spectacularly.
So why doesn't that get her laughed out of the room when she says that?
Well, I think part of it is simply because there are a lot of people today who are voters who don't remember the 1970s. And frankly, even those who do remember still don't understand the public policies that created such a horrific mess. I mean, look at all of the failed public policies that have driven up prices. Forget the 1970s. Just look at today. The trillions upon trillions of dollars that the government spent, borrowed, and printed are what gave us the inflationary nightmare we have today and the stratospheric cost of living, except you have literally millions of Americans walking around who believe it had nothing to do with failed government policy, and then instead it's just greedy corporations who I suppose magically became greedy in January of 2021 when this administration took office. But this is what we're dealing with, these kinds of misperceptions among the public.
Yeah, I had to use that line on a guest a couple weeks ago. Oh, really? They just got greedy, just around the same, just coincidence about the time we printed $6 trillion. That's just a coincidence. Yeah, that's always a fun one, EJ. So if she does get into power, I think I could, put a fire blanket on some of the sensational talk by saying she's just going to adopt what we see now, which isn't great, but it's not apocalyptic.
Well, it remains to be seen. Look, here, part of the problem is that everything that she wants to do is essentially what we have done the last 4 years, put on steroids and arguably a little crack cocaine thrown in there too, just to make it happen even faster. What she wants to do is have the government spend even more money than it already has. She wants to regulate even more. She wants the government even more involved in your life and in your business. So it's not even just a matter of things will deteriorate at the same pace, but I would argue they're going to deteriorate much, much faster.
Oh, but EJ Antoni, what do you know? You're from that hellhole that gave us Project 2025. Oh, no! Yeah. Jokes aside here, this inflation, it's going to keep going no matter what Jerome Powell does until we have a balanced budget, in my estimation. Am I being too negative on that?
No, I think that's a good read, because we essentially for the last year have seen fiscal and monetary policy at loggerheads. We have seen a Congress and a White House that continues to spend trillions of dollars we don't have, and that has essentially overpowered the monetary tightening that we've seen at the Fed. In other words, the Fed is trying to pull back, and the other two are pushing forward, and they've been pushing a lot stronger than the Fed has been willing to pull back. And unfortunately, now it looks like the Fed has just kind of given up the fight, which is going to ensure more inflation in the months and years to come.
One last parting thought. If you are going to use that trademark term, air bidet, that is credited to Miss Parker.
Hi, Miss Parker.
My wife came up with that term, so you feel free to use it in your articles or columns or in Project 2026 or whatever, but just give her proper credit. That's all, EJ.
Well, a sincere thank you to Miss Parker.
All right, there he is. EJ Antoni Heritage Foundation, looking at the economic policies of Kamala Harris. But coming up, oh man, I've already been getting a lot of messages about the letter released from the second shooter here, Routh. And now the question is the FBI trying to make sure every unhinged wacko knows that there's a bounty on Trump's head? I mean, are they encouraging more shooters? Did you see this letter? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. All you people leaving me Facebook comments, you can call in too. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. And as if this election season, any presidential election season, isn't enough of a news story in its own, the terrible stuff we're finding out about the second shooter of Trump. I mean, the stuff we're finding out is blowing our mind. The stuff that we still don't know is blowing our minds. Number one, the DOJ, FBI, they released a letter from this guy that he wrote after the attempted shooting of Trump. And it says, hey, sorry I failed you. Anyone out there, if you can finish the job, you get $150,000 from me. That's right. He put a bounty on Trump's head. Meanwhile, we still don't know anything about the details of that day. Like the GoPro camera. We're told he has a GoPro. Well, was it set up on the fence? Was it set up on his gun? Was it Bluetooth into his phone? Did he take it with him? Did you find it at the scene? We don't have any answers for that. Where's the video for that? No, you won't release that, but you'll release this letter that basically incites more violence against Trump. A lot of suspicious stuff here. And this is on top of having a normal presidential election cycle where we talk about the economy. We talk about foreign policy. We talk about what's going on with inflation, what's going on with any of these other number of issues that are just normal parts of presidential election cycles. And then we have this shooting business to go along with it. To help sort it out, my next guest, Terry Schilling. He's a GOP strategist. Welcome back to The James Show, Terry.
Thanks for having me, James.
So we have all this other stuff spinning around, and we still have not a whole lot of good ideas of what your opponent is offering in this election cycle. Now, normally, you would think that's a bad thing, but if she still does okay in the polling without releasing her platform, she has no incentive to do so, and it gives you just no ammo to point out. How big of a deal is this, Terry?
It's a huge deal, James, and it's actually a cheapening of American politics that we've seen gradually build over the years to now a full-fledged explosion. I would say that for quite some time, the political arena has moved away from robust policy discussions, like Reagan's foreign policy in the 80s and his tax and economic plans. There were robust discussions about presidential candidates and their vision for the country and their vision for the future. And we don't really have that now. We have what's basically amounts to personality attacks. Kamala Harris doesn't really have any independent plans that are even worth discussing. She talks in generalities about stopping grocery stores from price gouging, even though they have less than 4% profit margins. Grocery stores, by the way, are a profit by quantity of sales, not the the price gouging that she's talking about. But it's absolutely terrible. And what's happening is because of the vilification of President Trump through the legacy media and through these campaigns, he's now had 2 assassination attempts, and it might be 3 or 4 by the end of this campaign.
Do we know what the term opportunity economy means? She keeps using that in her prepared speeches and in all her interviews. That gets said at least once. That sentence has to be in there. But do we know what that means? Opportunity economy.
No, and we don't, but it can't be good, right? We know that these words, these key buzzwords that Democrats use that were the result of focus group testing and polling, we know that they're not good because when they say things like diversity, well, actually they mean we want everyone but white people. And when they say equity, they mean everything except equality. And when they say inclusion, they want everyone included except normal people. Right? These words that they use, these buzzwords, are usually just euphemisms for really terrible stuff that they have planned. And we don't need to know the details of what they're talking about to know that it's probably not great. The easier the words, the softer the words, the more attractive the terms that they're using, it's probably likely that the worse policies are going to be included.
Will there be another debate, Terry Schilling?
I really hope so, James. I don't think there will be. Donald Trump is countering Kamala's proposal for a CNN debate by proposing a Fox News debate. I don't know why we can't have a debate at a neutral location where the Republicans get to choose their guy on the stage and Democrats get to choose their guy, right? Why not have Tucker Carlson as a moderator and then Don Lemon or whoever the heck the Democrats want to choose? We don't have to. I understand Trump's frustration with the ABC debate because it was 3 against 1, and it's very tough to talk about your plans when you're the only one being fact checked. And by the way, most of those fact checks were false. But I get that he doesn't want to do another one on CNN, but we kind of owe it to the American people to get back to these policy discussions. Tell them what your vision is for the future. And by the way, feel free to tell them what you think your opponent's vision is for them and what your opponent's going to do to them. But this is not going to end well for the American political system.
All right, tell the guys listening about the American Principles Project.
Well, we are a pro-family NRA-style organization. So the same way the NRA protects your Second Amendment rights, we protect parental rights in the instance of children. And right now, it's pretty exciting. We just launched a new campaign ad with a detransitioner, a little girl that was transitioned as a little girl and gender transition, that is, who's now detransitioned and gone back. Her name's Chloe Cole. She's an adult now, but she was transitioned as a child, and she's endorsing President Trump and talking about how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's policies led her into this gender transition. It's very powerful. I'd recommend everyone go to my Twitter account to check it out at Schilling, SCHILLING 1776 across all major platforms on social media.
I'm going to check that out. Why didn't you tell me, Terry? That sounds great.
It's really fun work. I'm really blessed to get to work with some of the best people in the world.
All right. I'm going to make a note here in the notes about that. Thank you very much, Terry Schilling. And again, if you want to find him, AmericanPrinciplesProject.org. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Coming up next, should deepfake videos be allowed in campaign ads? California's already trying to outlaw them. But as long as you know it's a deepfake, it's not really fraud, is it? It's just like a really good impersonator or a political cartoon or just, I thought parody was legal. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. That's next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Aaron Pomerantz is my next guest with Young Voices, keeping an eye on the election because it's only 43 days away. Welcome back, Aaron.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get into the latest on the campaign trail. Kamala Harris seems to be doing this series of interviews, Aaron, and I'm using the air quotes with the 2 fingers on each side of my head, interviews, where the complaint is now that she's been the candidate, the presumed nominee, and then the official nominee for over 64 days now, she still hasn't had like a wide open press conference where she fields questions, that are random, unedited, unknown in advance, unscripted. She still hasn't done that. How, can she get away with not doing that, Aaron?
Yeah, I think she can. I don't think it's going to be much of a problem for her. And I think the reason is that she's had 6 weeks. I think it was whatever reasons there were behind it. I don't think she was expecting to be the nominee. It was pretty clear they were going with Biden, and that turned out to have been a bad idea. So she has 6 weeks until the election, and according to her media team, she's about to start doing these interviews. But there's a lot that goes into a campaign, and up until now, I mean, she had to rush a VP pick. That normally takes months, and she had to do it in weeks, and by all accounts, didn't do a great job of vetting her potential choice, which is why she has Waltz instead of Shapiro. So I think that if she starts doing interviews soon, she'll be fine.
Do you think there will be another debate? Because both sides said we haven't agreed to another debate, and then you hear like some apparatchiks and some people who are adjacent to them say, no, we're still open to the idea if the conditions were perfect.
I mean, I think that there will be another debate, and I think right now both Kamala and her head of outreach have said that they want to debate Donald Trump again, and Donald Trump is the one who's saying he doesn't want to, and I think that's going to be a really bad decision for him if he sticks to that. For one thing, I think he's going to end up changing his mind, so the quicker you do that, the better you look. Second of all, he did not look great in the last debate. He kind of pulled it together at the end, and he started out strong, but Kamala was able to pretty nicely make him look bad. And yes, she had some help from the moderators, but you know, if you're going to run on the platform that the system is rigged, but I can fix it, and yet you can't beat this rigged system, that doesn't really inspire confidence in your voters. So I think that she's being really smart and saying, yeah, I want to have another debate, and Donald won't debate me. She even posted a video, her campaign did. I'm sure she did not click upload on YouTube, but they posted a video of Donald Trump talking and just chicken noises behind him because he wasn't agreeing to a debate. And he's really easy to rile. And when he's riled, he does not come off well at all, as we saw in the last debate. So I think if he's smart, there will be another debate.
Okay. The other variable that we have in this election that we haven't had to deal with in elections past, we've now had 2 attempts on the life of Donald Trump. And look, you're not the guy who's going to give us all the details of the investigation, but how does this affect him politically? I mean, is he going to start pulling back on some of his campaign events because of safety concerns?
I don't think so. Again, I think that Trump... There have been 2 very different reactions to his assassination from him. To the first assassination attempt, whatever you may think of the man politically, he was masterful in terms of grabbing a hold of that and using and projecting an image of strength, jumping up and screaming, fight. That was a really, really evocative image and one that rallied people behind him. The second one has not really, I don't think he's done as good a job as of grabbing a hold of it and using it to his advantage. And I think if there were any other campaign and this were more regular politics, we'd be talking a heck of a lot more about the fact that somebody tried to assassinate the former president twice in the span of a month, when the most recent time before this that they gotten that close was 10 years before I was even born. So yeah, I think it could help him, but he just doesn't seem to really be hammering home any of the points he should be, and he's undercutting a lot of the points that he could be making by like he tries to say, oh, this is about dangerous, demonizing rhetoric, but psychologically people are very vulnerable to hypocrisy and double standards, and so when he claims dangerous, dehumanizing rhetoric and then does what he says about, Haitians in Ohio, to the point that even, the Republican Party of Ohio is going, please stop talking about this. I think that kind of really deadens his ability to call for civility, because when the average voter who's sitting here going, dear God, why am I having to choose between these people? When they look at that, they're like, okay, so they both suck on this issue. I'm not going to pay attention to it next. So it's a really weird election, and this is just another example of that weirdness, I think.
Aaron Pomerantz, where do the listeners find you outside of WBAP?
You can find me at Young Voices, and then my Twitter, which is onlypalm9208.
Thank you very much, sir. Aaron Pomerantz, Young Voices on The James Show. 800-288-9227 if you have anything to chime in on election talk. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk to a guy from the Eagle Gun Range. They're having a series of fundraisers for the family of the fallen Dallas police officer Darren Burks and the two other police that were injured in the shooting 2-3 weeks ago. I believe one of them has lost vision in both eyes, so we don't want them to be completely forgotten, and we'll tell you how you can help out coming up next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.